All right, the Reds, hello and welcome to the 150th Late Challenge free show. That's not bad, is it? We're closing in on 3 years now, and we're dead close to another YouTube subscriber milestone. So if you've watched this regularly, you know that I've probably got some kind of OCD, ADHD, something like that. So I'm looking at this number every day going, just hit 16,000, will you? Come on. So if you haven't done already, please click on subscribe on the channel, because it all helps, if not at least with my sanity. Right then, this week we've got Stu Wright, the Heighton boys back together, the Adidas twins.
We didn't coordinate, we didn't plan it.
We didn't speak, we didn't coordinate, it's just happened. It's just the way we roll. But yeah, me and Stu this week, as Mo this week, is deep in the bowels of Old Trafford. Hopefully you've had your jabs, lad. That's Mo Stewart, by the way, not the other fella, but we are going to come on to talk about the other Mo, probably in quite some depth yet again, because how can you ignore that? But Liverpool now are unbeaten in 5, 2 points off the Champions League places, and since we last spoke, we've clocked up 2 wins, including, again, away in the San Siro. But the Brighton game and the huge circus around it and the Mo Salah interview and all of that's gone on. We did talk about it last week. More that has happened since. So that's where we have to start, really, I think. So I'll throw you under the bus straight away, mate. Thoughts on all of that and where it might go? What do you think?
I don't. It's mad, isn't it? Here, like 5 unbeaten. You know, it does put a different spin on it. But yeah, listen. It feels like it's a poor season, isn't it? Like in the Premier League, the fact that we could have the start of the season that we've had, or certainly the last couple of months that we've had, and still be a couple of points off the top 4, still not that far off the top, really. You know what I mean? I've seen teams, you know, close gaps not too dissimilar to that over the years. You know, I'm not saying this is nearly shout for it's back on, but you know, there's a lot of games, you know, over the next month, and you never know what can happen. I think if we're in a position where we're within 6 points of Arsenal at the turn of the year, or by the time that we're going to their place, then it makes it interesting again, doesn't it? It does make it interesting, and I think, listen, I don't think they're sweating about us, but I think they're starting to sweat a little bit. They've got City breathing down the necks. Villa are doing really well, really well. But it's, if you know, from our point of view, it's just good to feel a little bit more solid now. A couple of back-to-back clean sheets. The Leeds game ruined our weekend, the weekend before, didn't it? But we've managed to put a couple of results there together, and you know, I thought it was a good game. I really enjoyed the game on Saturday. I thought it was like it was refreshing for the team to come to Anfield and want to play. Yeah. So it was just a really good footy match, I thought. Brilliant.
Yeah, and I think as well, you know, the thing that sort of jumped out for me, and the things I look for and the things that make me happy is, I just thought, in very basic terms, in both games since we've last spoke on here, they were at it.
Yeah.
You know, they were getting stuck in. They started fast. Obviously, like, that's one of the fastest goals Liverpool have scored in the Premier League against Brighton. But they were in against the Inter as well. They were in. They looked solid. You know, early on in the game against Brighton, you know, Curtis Jones is closing down the keeper. We're forcing mistakes, and then the ball's in the back of the net. I just love all that, because I feel like that a lot of that was missing. You know, when we were in the worst of times. Great English, Gareth. But you know what I mean? Like during the dark times of this season, it was like that was missing. They were feeling sorry for themselves. It was like they were going into games where you were like, but you're not at it, lads. You know, you're strolling around. Your collective attitude doesn't look right. It does now. And, you know, the whole thing, like I say, the whole thing was obviously always going to be this big circus around Salah. Where we're at with that now, what do you think? Because it feels like, you know, we've got this sort of uneasy truce now. But it doesn't feel like it's resolved by any stretch, because you've got a manager that doesn't seemingly want to be strong-armed into starting them. You've got Salah, who doesn't like being on the bench. He's still communicating regularly via the medium of Instagram and Twitter, and we've got to fill in the gaps. He hasn't said anything publicly. And then when you look at the words from the manager, I mean, this could be me, but I think some of them are quite sort of loaded. You know what I mean? He said, for me, there's no issue to resolve. For me, he's now the same as any other player. That's a little bit loaded. And then he said, yes, I think he's a Liverpool player. And the moment he's there, I like to use him when we need him. Which, again, doesn't feel like you're talking about what Mo wants to be talked about as, which is a star player, the main man, the fella that starts every single Liverpool game no matter what. So it feels, he's gone away now, obviously. He may or may not choose to speak in front of cameras and microphones when he's away. But from a Liverpool point of view, you think it will die off a little bit now because, Slot doesn't really have to field questions about someone who's not even here. I have to say as well, did you see Konate's quotes?
Yeah.
What's he smoking there? For those that have missed it, Konate came out with what happened with him. You have to understand the frustration sometimes felt by players who have such a career, who have done so much. He is a player that everyone loves. The coach loves. He loves the coach. And everyone loves each other at this club.
He's a mad cat, Konate, and he's an absolute mad cat.
That does not tie in with anything that's gone on in the last week, mate.
But I think there's loads to unpack there from what you've said. But I mean, just to latch on to the first thing you said about the circus, I mean, that's a word I've used a lot over the last week or so because it did feel, we're in danger of becoming a bit of a circus as a club if we go down the road where the players can call the shots, but also it felt like the media circus was in town, a little bit of blood in the water following the Salah interview, and you don't want the club in the press for the wrong reasons. You want them on the back pages because of the footy and because of how well they're doing. I think we are. I think we're, as you said, they're a bit of uneasy truce. I think that the way it all turned out on the day, you couldn't have hoped for much more. I think the manager's handled it publicly as well as he possibly could have done.
Yeah, I do.
I think he's been tested, and you can't have a situation, no matter who the player is, where he's questioning the authority of the manager. You just can't have it. And, this has got nothing to do... If I look at other clubs, this kind of shapes my view on this. There's a few historic things that shape my view. You've got things like in recent history where you've seen the way Ronaldo has carried himself. And you look at that, and I don't know about you, but I've thought... when he has carried on in a similar vein, I've thought, well, that's bell-end behaviour.
Yeah. 100%.
When I've seen things happen at Chelsea over the past 20 years where there's been too much player power and they have on occasions got rid of managers, again, I've thought that's bell-end behaviour. And you're talking about, top players like John Terry, who's been involved in stuff like that, Lampard, who's been involved like that in the past. I also think about I used to have this video, this VHS going back when I was a kid of it was like the story of Kenny Dalglish.
Portrait of a natural footballer.
That was the one, yeah. That was the one.
Well.
And it was one of those where you just watched it over and over again. I could probably quote half of it now. So
you watched the new one, by the way?
Yeah, I'm about halfway through. But I always remember on that one a story that was being told. I think it was by St. John. And he talked about around a similar time, Kenny Dalglish got dropped from the Scotland team, and Kevin Keegan got dropped from the England team. And the response from Kevin Keegan at the time was, "Well, I don't want to play for that manager. I don't want to play for England again. I'm retiring from England." Whereas the response from Kenny Dalglish was, I need to work harder. I'm going to work harder and prove the manager wrong, win me place back. And I think that that speaks volumes of the level of humility that Dalglish has. I think for every player, no matter how good they are, no matter what they've done in their career, there comes a time actually where they're going to be tested, where they're out of form. And being a manager, you are constantly making subjective calls. You are paid to make subjective calls, and you are paid to make difficult decisions. And when that time comes to drop a player like Salah, you've got to back your manager. You've certainly got to support his judgment. Even if you disagree with it, you can't be coming out, in my opinion anyway, and wanting a manager out because a player has been dropped. It doesn't sit comfortably with me at all. So I think, Mo was hurt, obviously. He sees himself as a certain thing. But if what a player has done in the past meant that they never had to fight for their shirt, and this was something that I felt was wrong in his interview, that in particular that I latched onto, where he said, "Well, I've already proved myself. I don't need to earn my place." Well, no. If that was the case, then Ian Rush would still be playing centre forward. You know what I mean? It just can't work like that. It can't work like that. So for me, I'm always going to fall down on the line of I want to protect the club. I want to protect the best interest of the club going forward. And for me, the moment that you back a player over a manager, even if the manager's going through a bad time, even if you disagree with the fact that you think that player should be playing, the moment that a player can do something that leads to the integrity of the manager and the authority of the manager being questioned, you're on dodgy ground, and I think it puts the club in a difficult position going forward. I think the club always had to come down, even if behind the scenes Slot was under pressure, they always had to come down along the line of, we've got to back the manager, because what does it say to future prospective managers as well? You know what I mean?
It's like, you got to pick me or I'm going to throw my toys out the pram.
100%.
That's what I didn't get. It was like, because, I was told that over the weekend, not very often I throw these kind of lines in, but I was, so I'm going to throw it in. I was told that he doesn't want to go. So if he doesn't want to go, and people in the comments are going on about links to Saudi and all that, and I've seen them, but if he doesn't want to go, then what are you doing? And all you can then, conclude really is it was like a power play. It was he wanted to get digs in publicly against the manager, which again is just not on. And I don't understand why I'd want to go. I really don't, because we saw on Saturday that he's loved here. We knew that. I knew he'd get the support. I confidently did an interview myself and said, there won't be any dissenting voices today. If he comes on the pitch, he'll be supported because he's wearing the red shirt and he's Mo Salah. And that's exactly how it unfolded. But there was also support for the manager, though, as well, which I liked and I was glad to hear, because it was like, we're also saying, in a way, I think, we support you, but we support him as well, mate. And we just don't want this played out in public. And he put it into the public domain. So for me, for it to truly be over, he needs to put something else in the public domain and back down from it. And I'm not sure he will. I'm not sure it's in his character. I'm not sure his agent would tell him to do it either, because I feel those two together are a bit of a, not the greatest force, if you like, for this type, certainly for us all coming together and loving each other like Kanate thinks it is. And look, some people will probably disagree with me over this, but I didn't like the lap at the end. I didn't like the slow walk around the whole ground. Because what was that? Because this is my problem with all of it. I don't get the what, I don't get the why, I don't get the how, I don't get any of it. And for a mind like mine, I want certainty. And he's left it all uncertain. He's left it all just floating there. And it's like, were you saying Sarah? Or were you properly? Or were you just walking around because you're going off to AFCON? Was the slow clap and the slightly jaded look on your face because, you've done wrong? Or was it, nah, it's the manager that, you know what I mean? Like, it's all left open to interpretation, isn't it? The same with like the social media posts, but with nothing on them. Like even today, he's thrown up another one and it's, most goals and assists, most goals and plus assists for a single club in Premier League history. That's great, mate. No one has ever questioned the fact that you've been brilliant for Liverpool. You're loved, you've got songs, you've got banners. People love you to bits for what you've done to Liverpool. And on this very podcast, it felt like we almost had a section every week where we were banging on about how good he is, how amazing he is, that he's underrated, that he's not rated amongst the greats where he belongs, all of that stuff. You're rated, mate. You're loved, mate. So for me, like I say, it's just sort of like a bit of humility wouldn't go amiss, because I didn't like the lap of the ground, because to me it's making it about you and you're last off the pitch. Everyone's watching. He makes a bit of a joke as well about to the reporters saying 2 weeks in a row, no, and he's got a bit of a grin on his face. Thought it was funny, by the way, that he was literally flanked by Neil Jones and Tony Barrett at that point, like as though they were going to swoop in if he did decide to start to say it. But, I just feel like he's left it in a place where there's no clarity for these fans that have adored him. And it feels like you're still making a point or refusing to look at your own actions or performances. And as you said, it happens to everyone that eventually you cannot do what you did once before. And I don't think he's there. I thought he was decent when he came on. He had a good game. He influenced the game. Kind of felt like he was making a point with how he played the game. So he was tracking back. he was working hard, he was putting tackles in, all of that kind of stuff, and he was passing, you know what I mean? Like, he'd been accused of being greedy, felt like he was trying to tee other players up quite a lot when he could have gone himself. And so it was like, it feels like it's gone in based on what I'm seeing on the pitch, but you haven't said anything with your mouth. You haven't come out and done something public like you did the other week. And that had completely put it to bed. And on the Saudi stuff, I just don't get it. I never have. I don't get why a fella who's as good as him and, only a few months ago signed the biggest contract in the history of Liverpool Football Club would want to go there in January. For what? You just disappear. Like, in terms of top-level football, you've gone. You know what I mean? It's a retirement home. It's a league that is like 100 leagues below what this league is. The Premier League is the league. The Premier League is where the world is watching, where you are a superstar. He's been a superstar of both Liverpool Football Club and the Premier League. If you go there, you're like, I'm done. And then it's like, if you go there and admit you're done, then the manager had the point all along, mate. So you haven't won the argument.
See, interesting there, like a few times at the beginning of that, you said about how frustrated you are because so much was left unsaid, right? And then there's the whys of the slow lap of honour at the end, if you like. And I think ultimately, I think that was done because he doesn't know. And I think there's so much of this that we don't know. And I think that's by design. A bit, and I think the danger is that when you don't know, when there's a bit of a vacuum there, people are dead keen to fill it. Yeah, and that's the danger. 100%, and that leads to little polarized opinions and mad stuff that I've seen flying around. And I think the thing is, you've just got to look at what we know, because we're not inside the dressing room, and I think if we just stick objectively to the facts that we know around the situation. First of all, Mo Salah's a very proud man. Very proud of his achievements. We know that because we've seen him over the years, take a lot of pride, take a lot of pleasure from the numerous records that he seems to break almost every week. He broke another one at the weekend, didn't he? And so he's a very, very proud man. It's hurt his pride that he's been left out the team for 3 games and then a 4th, obviously, at the weekend. And he's reacted, and I think that he has given an emotional reaction, and he doesn't do it very often. But when he does speak to the press post-game, it tends to be because he's got something on his mind that he's reacting to. And I think he's reacted, and I think, in my opinion, what he said went too far. Yeah. And I'm steadfast in that because of what I said before about what I want for the club and the way that's looked after. But I think that's led to a situation there where he's been given a consequence of left out of the team. I think that was right, in terms of the travelling party to Inter. And I think then it's been resolved to a certain point where they can get him back in the squad, move on because he's had his consequence. He's a big boy. He's had his consequence. Slot's a big boy as well. He can deal with that, and we all move on. And then he's managed to get on the pitch. Get him on the pitch at the first opportunity. The right back has gone off injured, and he doesn't throw on a defender. He throws on Mo Salah. I mean, it would be dead funny if he'd have put him on at right back just to teach him a lesson. That'd be hilarious. But I think he's come on, and I thought he played really well. Everton didn't come off for him, but he played really well. He put in a shift. I think he worked really hard for the team. He got the assist from the corner. He could have scored. 1 or 2 other things could have come off for him, but nobody could deny the fact that if he played well in the game and he was an influence in the game. And I thought Liverpool looked better and more of a threat with him on the pitch because that looked like Mo Salah, who had a point to prove. Yeah. It looked like Mo Salah with the bit between his teeth. Brilliant. Love that. Let's have more of that. Brilliant. Because, again, objectively, and he's not the only one, but he's not played well this season. He's not.
That's the bit that I keep going back to. That's the bit he's not accepting.
And I completely sympathise with the fact of he might be thinking to himself, well, neither of the other lads, why am I dropped? I get that, 100%. I mean, it's it's been doing my head in that Gakpo was keep getting picked for the kickoff, and then Canate kept getting picked, but we didn't have enough defenders and blah 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 blah. I completely understand his emotions. I wouldn't want him any other way, because that is what fuels him. That level of competitive spirit, that level of self-drive, inner belief, pride, that is what has driven Mo to the very, very top. I wouldn't want him any other way, apart from then reacting in such an emotional way, and what I consider an unprofessional way, really.
But also, I mean, you're saying, I get what you're saying.
But just let me finish there, Robbo, sorry. But it's a mistake. And it's not a mistake that, he needs to be dealing with forever. He's got enough credit in the bank, and so is the manager, by the way. He's won a title. Mo's got so much credit in the bank. He's made the mistake. He's had his consequence. That's it. We all move on. But do I think that that's the end of the matter? I don't, because I think Liverpool, and I think the manager is in a situation where they've got to be also now forward thinking. They've bought lads now that maybe take the shape of the team in a slightly different way. And the club and the manager has a responsibility to look to the future. But if Mo Salah is playing like he was on Saturday, and if Mo Salah is making himself undroppable, then he plays. And I think the manager's absolutely rock solid on that too, by the way. Yeah. So, let's have that.
Yeah, all I was going to pull you on, really, was just that when you're saying it's emotional, but like it took him from Friday to Saturday night to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're emotional in a moment where you're having a bit of a rant, but he's had a good long think about it and thought this is the best thing to do. He's probably spoken to his agent and they've gone, yeah, this is the thing to do.
Don't you think he's been bubbling now? I think he was bubbling for the week.
Was you surprised at all by I guess, I mean, again, we're left joining dots. Again, it's really divisive. Again, loads of people have got different opinions about it. But, I didn't like seeing them all running around a pitch, laughing and joking with the open training that followed it. It was like, you should have a cob on with them. You know what I mean? You should have a cob on with them. And then they've all come out and sort of like spoke about they want him to stay, they want to play in the team, he's great, he's this, he's my mate, I played with him all these years. I wouldn't expect them to, they'd only be following what he's doing if he said something publicly that could be interpreted the other way. But even that, it's like, you're forcing your teammates to have to answer questions about you.
Do you know what?
About you again and your story and what you've created for over 7 days now.
Yeah, no, I get that totally. I really didn't like the distraction and the fact that the players, Alisson had to go and do an extended press conference before the Champions League match, which, by the way, he navigated with absolute aplomb. What a classy fella, as we know. But I think the fact that the club and the hierarchy dealt with the matter, and that I think that then allows the players then to not have to. And that's what I want. I don't want the players falling out about it. They might have their own feelings about it. I'm sure they do. I'm sure behind closed doors, in the dressing room or with their families, they'll say X, Y, and Z, what they really
like
think.
Anywhere,
absolutely. Yeah. But ultimately, I still want it to be team harmony. I want it to be unity. I want it to be unity in the dressing room, and I want it to be unity on the terraces. I was genuinely concerned that there was going to be a situation where, because of some of the wild stuff that I've seen, of how polarised, I know we're going to talk about this later in the Patreon, but how polarised it's been, I was genuinely concerned that if someone was singing for Salah, or someone was singing for Slot at the game on Saturday, that there was going to be arguments. Yeah. And I can't be bothered with that. We had enough of that with Rafa. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to relive that. Liverpool are never as strong as when they're together. So I'm absolutely fine. And I was heartened by the fact that the players were sound with him, because the players all knew that it was getting dealt with. It was none of their business. It's to some respect, because its consequences were coming. It was getting dealt with behind the scenes. So it meant that they could be all right with it and move on.
Thanks to Jai, who was thrown in a tenner and says, lads, Southern boy here, lived in Crosby, Formby for a few years as a kid when my dad got a job in Liverpool. Missed the city so much, loved the show. Happy Christmas, and have a pint and some crisps on me. Thank you very much, mate. Very decent of you indeed. Yeah, we've covered then how the manager... Oh yeah, so you mentioned it there. In the Patreon, we are going to talk about some of the wilder shite that has gone on around this, in particular some of the online discourse, which was just absolutely mad. But we'll do that in the Patreon later on if you fancy a bit of us shaking our fist at the internet again. The other thing I wanted to ask, and the other thing I wanted to bring up really, and I think you touched on it a little bit there, is it a bit wild, given how this is dealt with in Europe as well, is it a bit wild that some of the people with the fingerprints on all of this never speak? So what I mean by this is, if I was to have some sympathy for Salah for a moment, which I've maybe not shown too much of, he's gone from being the main man to being not the main man. And, we talked on here after the Charity Shield saying nothing went through him in that game. He was out on the right and he hardly got a touch of the ball. And it was like, that's mad, because literally, this last season, every time it was give it to Van Dijk. Van Dijk sprays out to Salah. Salah holds it in well, brings other people into the play, blah, blah, blah. He was the main man, as his figures shown. And then it was like, he starts in this new season, and he's absolutely not. And look, of course, his own form, and, he's shown a bit of selfishness. Yes, finishing hasn't been great. He couldn't cross the ball against Burnley, blah, 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 blah. There's loads of examples of him not particularly playing well. But equally, there's some stuff there about, well, Liverpool chose to do a certain thing, both in terms of transfers in, transfers out, the type of transfers, the stars that they've bought for lots of money, all of that. The fingerprints on that are from not just Slopped, obviously, but from the sporting director, from Michael Edwards, from FSG, and yet all of them walk around with a plaster on their mouth and we never hear from them. We've heard from Richard Hughes once. Now, in Europe, the sporting director speaks. If it's something that's in relation to stuff he's done, or his field, if you like, he'll do a press conference, he'll speak to the media. And you're right, I think Slot has handled all this incredibly well. Very few missteps, really, in stuff he said. But I kind of felt sorry for him that he had to do it, because it's like, got all these lads here. You've been part of this as well. Where are you?
Yeah, you're right. In Europe, it's the done thing, isn't it? I'm kind of a little bit in between on it. So there were, when we've had Jürgen as manager, I mean, he was such a messianic figure at the club. He was like, he became almost like a spokesman, not just for the club, but almost for like the city. And I think there was a lot dropped on his shoulders. I think that now we've got a coach and not a manager. I do think that you could redress the balance a little bit and have a little bit more comms from the sporting director. I think that could be a thing. But there's another part of me where thinks, I don't want them to show their hand. I think less is more. I think Liverpool should do the talking on the pitch. I think there's too much from that the managers have to do now. It's wild. It's a lot. And you're watching these press conferences where nothing is said, and wonder Klopp looked fatigued by it all. I mean, he'd be doing post-game 20 different interviews. Contractually
obliged to do them.
Insane. Yeah. And now they're talking about, they're introducing the half-time stuff as well. And you're like, do you really think a manager is going to give away his game plan? What, a half time? Of course not. Did you see the
footage of inside Brentford's dressing room as part of the coverage?
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't hear what he was saying, but nevertheless, I was like, we don't need to see that.
We don't. Off. And I like football being more of a mystery. I like it. I like the magic being like, what does go behind the scenes? Let me have my imagination. And you said one of the first things you said today was you mentioned. We were talking off air before, and you mentioned about football being romantic. Well, the romance is going out with the game because we're seeing behind the curtain far too much. Yeah. So I get what you're saying, and it would be good for a manager to be protected, because actually now they're having to do so many interviews that you do feel that they're getting thrown under the bus, particularly when, there's actually the sign on his door says coach. And some of these decisions are out of his hands quite clearly. Including what's gone on with Salah. He's been a contributor to that decision-making process, but not by any means the sole architect of it. So I do get that, but if I had my wish, it would be that less was said overall, rather than, bringing more people into play.
Okay, well, we'll do the actual match, shall we? So Liverpool did play a match at the weekend, won, as I'm sure you all know. Now, look, loads of people have been upset, in particular with me, it seems, because I don't absolutely deify Salah for everything he does or says. So some positives. He played well, as Stu's already said. He influenced the game. He got an assist. He should have scored, and he should have put Robbo or Van Dijk in, which would likely have led to another goal. But as I said before, it looked like he wanted to. It definitely was like a point-proving performance, wasn't it? And he won 4 of his 6 duels, and he created 5 chances in the game. So fair fucks, Mo. More of that, please. That's all we want, mate. Just do that over and over, and we can all crack on. That'd be boss, wouldn't it? But more generally, I mentioned before about the sort of the good stuff, the spirit, the determination, the fight. Now, I don't want to do another speech about we're back, because I'm not sure we are back. Like, I'll hang on for being back. But it's been good to just win 2 games in a week, hasn't it? It's been good to be able to start a show and say we're unbeaten in 5. That feels nice. That feels like a start. Let's keep doing that, please, Reds. Now we go to Spurs next. Again, who knows? But they're not in a good place, are they? You know, their manager is now the favourite to get sacked after it being us the other week. But yeah, in terms of like a sort of, you know, a fast start, obviously I mentioned before, Curtis presses the keeper straight from the off, forces a mistake. The Reds, and I've nicked this off Michael Reed, the Reds had never scored before the 9th minute of a Premier League match under Arne Slot. And also, that was Liverpool's fastest goal in the league for 6.5 years. So, and look, I liked it. You know, the finish is boss, I thought, how he takes it. But I also liked it that, you know, Gomez is putting his head into like someone's boot almost to get it to Ekitik. Then he finishes it like that. And it was like, here we go, boys. Here we go, boy. And it was just good, you know what I mean? Like I felt we were all going there on Saturday going, please, come on. Please, Reds. I just want to see you win. I want something to be positive about. Because Saturday was the game where, you know, all the people you see all year who you stand by, sit by, you shake hands at the end and you say, have all the best, lads, have a good one and all that. And it would have been a bit shit to be doing that if it was another, fucking hell, we fucking got beat again. So, you know what I mean? It was just, it was good. And it felt like, you know, it wasn't only Salah going out there with a point to prove. I thought a few of them were going out there with, I think Curtis has been immense the last few games. He's definitely got some kind of bit between his teeth for whatever reason, backing up those words he said on Carragher's American show. I thought Gomez, unfortunate obviously with the injury again, feel really sorry for him over that. But what about the little run he goes on? And he gets right to the touchline, pulls it back for Ekitik. It could have been another goal. And it was like, it's right, Joe. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, there was just loads of things that made you glow inside a little bit, I thought, about Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, you can't be breaking out the Christmas songbook on the cop, can you? If you're getting beaten, you know, Merry Christmas Everton, it'd have a very different vibe. But yeah, so you're not quite ready to say the Reds are resurgent yet, no. But I do think that they've responded, and they've definitely responded to the circus. They've definitely responded to the fact of all the media attention on them. So maybe we've got something to thank Salah for then, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, I think what was so important was that we built on the Milan result, that Inter result.
It's good, that
you got to carry that forward into the weekend, and we did. And it felt, you know, it would come away from there feeling like, okay, we can build on this now. We've got a little bit of a foundation again, and the team's got a slightly different structure. I thought Gomez, by the way, I mean, it's great, but it was also heartbreaking, wasn't it? It's constantly heartbreaking with him. You think, you know, he's going to walk away from his Liverpool career with an absolute sackload of medals and loads of memories and loads of love from us. But in many respects, it feels like, you know, the great lost Liverpool career, what it could have been. He's an unbelievable footballer. And my biggest frustration actually with Slot in over recent weeks has been, why are you playing him at centre-half? Play him at centre-half, because Konate's been, you know, as I said before, he's a mad cat, and he's been all over the place. And playing Gomez at right back is not the only option here, particularly in the weeks where Bradley's been available. Or I mean, he's played Jones, he's played Szoboszlai at right back, which seems such a waste. But playing Gomez at right back, he's got loads more running to do there. There's loads more hard yards to do there. Play him at centre half, and it's cigars in comparison to playing right back. And in terms of the toll it takes on the body. Sorry, Liverpool centre halves, but it is, the right back it's a thankless task at time getting up and down that line. Yeah. So I actually felt that it was inevitable that the more they played him right back, he was going to break down at some point. So absolutely gutted about that. But another great cameo from him. Let's hope it's nothing serious, because I want to see him back on a red shirt again soon. But yeah, listen, Ekitik, we've got to talk about him, haven't we? I mean, he's got all the mental, that confidence, that swagger that you want in a Liverpool forward. There's certain attributes that he's got as well that remind me, and I feel like I'm going very early on this, but I think we've discussed it ourselves in the pub from the start of the season. Even the way he moves, the way he runs, there's something a bit Torres about him. I think it also helps because the Liverpool's kit is reminiscent of Torres's kit at Liverpool, but I think, he's so quick, he can beat a man, he can be powerful, he knows where the back of the net is, and he's so young. We got Torres as he was about to enter his peak years. We got him at such a great age. Ekitik is so young, and he's done the rounds. He's had that big move to PSG, which didn't come off for him, and he's then gone to Germany, and it's got to be at the back of his mind of whether he was going to get that chance at a big club again, and he's got it, and he's grabbing it. He's absolutely grabbing it, and I love the fact of when he's scoring, he is looking to the crowd, going, doing not too arrogant, but a little bit of
There's a bit there, isn't there? I mean, he was literally fucking
get on to me,
bowing, wasn't he, after the first one?
There's a fair bit of get on to me, and I absolutely love that. And Liverpool fans, and this harks back to the Salah frustrations a little bit. Liverpool fans don't mind if a player's not playing well, if they're giving blood, sweat and tears on the pitch. And I think that as Liverpool players, you've got to know that. You've got to know that the minimum requirements is you've got to run your backside off. You've got to fight for everything. And, listen, the team was built in a way like last year allowed Salah to go and give him the platform to go and have one of the greatest seasons you're ever likely to see. But it's not quite working for him this season. So I think that shift of mentality's got to be there. And what Ekitike's done since he's come in, he's ran all over the shop. I think with the only game where I thought he was a bit of a shadow, a bit of a ghost, was City away, and that can happen to any. Since no one played well, we were so passive, he had no service. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because you're looking at Ekitik and the way he's putting himself about, the way he's demanding the ball, the runs, he's making the constant threat that he is, how busy he is. And then obviously you're seeing Isak come in, and he's not that player, is he? He's very much a big contrast to him right now, isn't it? Someone tweeted us about that today, asking the question, like, when do you start to worry about Isak? I just think he's an introvert.
Yeah, we keep hearing this thing about, missed pre-season, missed the training and all that, but by now you're kind of like, I'm not sure you can just say that all season. No. And it's the stuff that, for me, the stuff I like with Ekitik, obviously the goals, and that's 10 for the season, 7 in the Premier League. The 10 is double the tally of any other Liverpool player right now. Salah, Gakpo and Szoboszlai have all got 5, and Ekitik is 7 in 10 in the Premier League. Only Sturridge has scored more in his first 10 starts for Liverpool, so he got 8. So, it is factually, with your eyes, statistically, whatever you want, it's a great start. I love, what I was going to say was, I love the fact that he makes things happen as well. So, like, we're hearing people who are looking at Isak and saying, well, what's wrong? I'm hearing a lot about service. Well, there's a moment on Saturday where Ekitik's dropped to the left wing, picked the ball up, drove himself with the ball and got to the edge of their box and put it wide. But just that, that was appreciated by the ground, because it was like, fucking go on, lad. Because he's making it happen. He's determining how the game's going, and that's what we're not seeing from Isak. But it's in his locker, because he did that at Newcastle. Oh. But also, what was in his locker was to disappear in games, because there was a time, wasn't there, where Eddie Howe publicly challenged them basically and said, for what you've got and what you can do, we're not seeing it enough. And then he went on a bit of a run after he was challenged by the manager. So Slot's probably like, fuck off, I'm not getting involved with stuff like that again after all this Salah stuff. But you know what I mean? Like, it's there, the players there. We were all so excited about seeing him. And it's like, fine service, he scores loads of goals in the box, we know that. But equally on days where maybe it isn't happening, drop deeper, drop out to the wing, make stuff happen as well if it's not happening for you. Surprise the defenders. The defender expects you to be in the box or on the shoulder or whatever. If you're not getting involved and you're only having 1 or 2 touches in the game, go and make something happen.
Yeah, sprint.
Yeah.
Run, go and put a tackle in, go and win a header, let the defenders know you're about, leave one on someone, whatever. I think all of that is, and all of those things, by the way, I felt like I saw every time he played against Liverpool. Every time that we played them, play Newcastle, I thought, God, is Isak playing? Because he gave us the runaround and he was so bright, he was so busy and so aggressive. And I loved that. I loved the notion of us getting him. I was so excited about it. I think to be fair to him, there is something in the service thing. I think Liverpool aren't set up currently to, and haven't been all season, to necessarily get the best out of him, because you look at what he had at Newcastle and he thrived off, there was wide players like Gordon and Barnes getting to the byline. They were more direct. Slot has a slower build-up. You mentioned before about, the first time we've scored a goal that quick. It feels like we've conceded a lot of goals that quick, under Klopp as well, by the way. But I think that there's a balance to be struck. We're not set up for them. I think they'll rectify that, or aim to rectify that in January. I think the Semenyo thing is on. I do. I think Liverpool have identified the fact that they need to act here to provide him a supply line.
The manager referenced it, didn't he?
100%. It was interesting. About 2 months ago, he was asked in a press conference about a centre half. In January, and he said quite cryptically, interesting, you think that's where we need a player, because I think there's other priorities in other areas. And to me, that just smacked of, he wants a winger. He wants a winger. And the Semenyo thing makes loads of sense, because he can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can play on the right when Salah's not there, he can play on the left and give a different vibe than what Gakpo can, and provide that service. But in the meantime,
more than one thing.
Yeah, more than one, yeah. But in the meantime, while Isak's waiting for that, he can make himself more loved. He can get us behind him by just absolutely leaving it all on the pitch.
Exactly.
I'm totally with you on the fitness thing and pre-season, but it's December. I think there's more to it than this. I think he's really low on confidence. I think he's quite an introverted fella. Because of that, not everyone's on his wavelength. Yeah, I think that seems to me quite clear. He looks a little bit lost within himself. I think the way he left Newcastle affected him. He demanded it. He drove that transfer. But I do think the way it's all happened, and then his slow start at Liverpool, I think it's all compounded a bit to knock his confidence. And, for strikers more than anyone, it's all about confidence. So the chalk and cheese at the moment, Ekitik and Isak for confidence. So, yeah, just in the meantime, Isak, do more, fight. And this crowd will 100% get behind you.
Just in terms of the sort of, the we're back shouts, just for a bit of balance. I mean, I think we've been really positive about it all there, and rightly so. But, I think we're still at the stage, I feel anyway, where you're looking at it going, well, the first goal still feels like it's dead crucial, because, we'd won before this game Saturday, we'd won 11 out of 13 when we scored the first goal and lost 9 of 11 when we conceded. And so, you still need to see, I don't want to see it, don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean, like them coming from a bit of adversity. And Brighton, I thought, had the chances, didn't they? We scored the opening goal, and then they go on to have one just past the post. There's a good save from Alisson. We have other chances, don't get me wrong. We could have put it to bed too, but, Gomez hits the post second half for them. Gruder flashes one across as well that he probably could have scored from. And they actually shade, for those that love the stats, they shade the XG, they shade the possession, but they only actually had one shot on target in the game. So it's sort of, Matoma was another one. He's through. He's a good player as well, and a player that scores those problems before he puts it wide. And it was sort of like, I'm glad that it's our day, don't get me wrong, but that's what's tempering the we're back for me. You know what I mean? I was like, a few times I was like, you know, I was doing the noise that the mechanic makes when he looks at your car in the garage. Fucking, you know, I was doing those types of noises on the cop because I just thought, they couldn't, probably should have scored there, you know, but it all turned out nice. But you know what I mean? There's still more to before we can confidently start walking around with our chests puffed out. We're not quite there yet, are we?
100%. And I think that is symptomatic of what we've been through, I think, over the last couple of months, because it seems to me that the system now that you've got Gravenberch dropping into the back four a lot of the time. And because we had all the midfielders that we had in the squad on the pitch. And because of that, the midfielders are all trying to support what was at times a lonely Ekitik. So they're all trying to get close to him and support him. But in the turnover, that then was leaving 20, 30 yards in the middle of the pitch exposed, because what was happening then was our backline, because of the nervousness, the anxiety, the lack of confidence, they're dropping. They're going deeper and getting into a low block on the transition. But the midfielders couldn't, and Gravenberch as well, by the way, almost making a 5. But the midfielders on the turnover were absolutely busting a gut to try and get back, but they can't be in two places at once. So there was space for them to run into and to play a bit of football in the split seconds, and that's all you need to be able to thread the pass through or to work into the wide areas. And then it's a one-on-one situation, you know, winger against fullback, and I think that was a large part of their game as well. And listen, the game could have ended up 5-2, 5-3. It was you couldn't argue if that had have happened. And I think the only way you necessarily you overcome this is by keep eking out the results, keep building the confidence, and as that confidence grows, I want to see the back four feel more confident to press higher up on the transition and nick the ball that's coming in towards their wide players, or nick it as it's coming into the centre half, as we've seen Liverpool do so well over the last few years. But they've had to adjust a little bit, and I think they're just a little bit nervous about getting back to that and being so aggressive on the turnover. But, you know, fingers crossed that'll come.
I wanted to just take a moment as well to get stuck into the officials, because what the fuck was that fucking challenge on Wirtz from Gomez? And how is it allowed at any point that you can put studs basically in someone's chest and not be sent off? Absolutely fucking wild. Like, you know, not quite De Jong on Alonso, but like, you know, similar areas of the body involved, I would say. And then, you know, the Premier League does that thing. It puts that tweet out, doesn't it? Sort of explaining how they've got to a decision. And it says, the referee's call of yellow card to Gomez was checked and confirmed by VAR, with the challenge on Wirtz deemed not to be with excessive force and not serious foul play. There was no fucking ball there, lads. The ball had gone. And the studs are going into his chest. I'm pretty sure that that's a serious foul play, lads. And guess who was on the VAR? Darren fucking England. And guess who Darren fucking England is? That bellend involved in the worst ever VAR decision in the history of football. No, you fucking let it go. That's 2 years ago now, isn't it? Fucking hell. I'm not letting it go. I'm not letting it go. It was him again. He shouldn't be involved in shit like this. How's he still here to make bad decisions like that? Get different fellas in if they can't do it, lads.
That's it. It's not like I hear so many people say, get rid of VAR. But it's not VAR, that's the problem. VAR's giving them a second look to get it right. It's the people who are so inconsistently giving, consistently giving inconsistent decisions. Do you know what I mean? And it really drives you absolutely mad. I mean, that was wild. That was like remember, was it Boateng on Alonso in it was the World Cup final a few years ago. It was chest height. I mean, to be fair, Wirtz did well to get up from that. He did well to get up from it. I saw there was something similar that happened to Dan Burn yesterday, and he ended up going off. It was a rib breaker. And listen, you hear it in football, oh, that was a leg breaker, that tackle. But when you're hearing it's a rib breaker, you know something's wrong.
How are you watching it back in your little hut and going, sound that? Fucking send them off. That's what you're there for. And there's a piece on the BBC where it's like, you know, it feels like they've got a problem with VAR upgrading things to a red, because it all feels like I'd be undermining me mate. Do you know what I mean? And there's too much of this bollocks. If you're going to do it, get fellas in who are a bit more independent of each other, maybe, because it's not working as it's set up. You know, we heard Mike Dean, didn't we say that time?
Yeah.
When he said, like, he basically didn't want to throw his mate under the bus because he had a tough day at the office. And it's like, no, mate, that's not what you're there for. You're there to get the decisions right. It's the whole fucking point of the thing, really. So that's a bit mad. I can feel myself getting a bit angry about that. So let's go back to something positive. Trying to be what's her name? Positive today. Trying to like, you know, lift the mood a little bit from all the shite of the last week or so.
Are you finding that? You doing all right?
You know,
I think you're doing well. I think you're doing well.
Doing all right. I think, what do you think? Let me know. Someone's suggesting that it should be changed to BAR, Bell End Assistant Referee. I like that. BAR. That's a good one, that, mate. That was Die. The Welsh Die, not the other side. Wanted to give Curtis a shout as well. That was his 200th appearance for Liverpool at the weekend. And I thought I like his interviews. I think he's good. Some people question how much he gabs and what he says and all the rest of it, but there's a bit of character in them, and there's nothing wrong with that, because we get so many fucking boring interviews about, you know, I scored a worldie, but it's all about the team, really, or whatever, you know, some absolute turgid shite that you've heard a million times. He comes out with stuff to say, doesn't he? You know, the other week about, you know, we've got to be like dogs or whatever he said and all that. I love that. On this one, he comes out and he's talking about the 200 appearance. He got asked about doing Cruyffs in his own box, and he said, you did a couple on him. He's like, nah, it was 4.
It was. Honestly, the fellas around me were having absolute canary fits over it. I mean,
did you see Virgil applauded them for doing it as well? And it was like, look, like, in your world, you might know how good he is on the ball, but when we're watching, we're having fucking kittens still seeing that. But he came out with these and sort of defended himself against criticism as well, which, again, I think it's sound. He says, I'm one of them that loves to play and I enjoy having the ball at my feet. I obviously heard that there's criticism at times that I don't move the ball quick enough, but that's because I'm comfortable on the ball. I don't want to be in a rush and then I give a ball to a lad who is not as comfortable as me on the ball, and then he's in a little bit of a challenge and he gets the blame. I'd rather just take it on me and know a lad who comes to press me is going to have to do an awful lot to take the ball off me. And now I read a piece today that said he averages 85.9 touches per 90, the most of any midfielder, and only behind, and then it's a big list of defenders, basically. So he is what it is, and I think he's playing well. I think he's being sort of quite central to this mini revival that we're having. I thought he was, he was unlucky with that absolute belter that he hit against Leeds, that hit the bar. That would have been some goal. He was good out in Italy, wasn't he? He was good on Saturday. So fair play to him. And I don't mind a bit of character in footballers. I think loads of them are dull as fuck. So,
listen, cards on the table. I absolutely adore the fella. I love him. That thing, that stat that you give there about how many touches he gets in a game, that doesn't surprise me at all. Not necessarily because people say he chews the ball, but actually because, you know what, he never does, ever does. He never hides. No matter how badly he or the team are playing, he shows for everything. There's a real bravery in the spirit in which he plays. You want players like that. You want players that when the going gets tough, they back themselves. They're not playing through fear. It's one thing you can never say about Curtis Jones is that he's afraid.
No.
He'll call it on and he'll back himself in every situation. Not everything's going to come off for him. There's going to be times where the ball gets turned over, but you know what? The best players will take those risks. They will lose the ball. The best players don't have 100% pass rate, success rate. They don't, because they're trying to make things happen.
Yeah.
And when you've got a player like Curtis, you've got to accept the pros and the cons. And for me, the pros by far outweigh the cons. It's like Trent was playing right back. You know, he could do things that and play make like no one else could do, no matter where they were playing on the pitch.
Have you seen about Wirtz has been waxing lyrical about him, saying that, like, you know, he loves having him in and around him because he helps him play. And
I think that's fueled partly by the surprise factor. I think Wirtz has been surprised by Liverpool having a player that he doesn't know as well. Doesn't get all the headlines. I think Curtis Jones is so underrated, but particularly in by our own fans at times. I think we can be prone to that. You go back years and you look at the stick that Ronnie Whelan got early on in his career at Liverpool. Yeah. We can be prone to that. If Curtis Jones was a signing, if we brought Curtis Jones in and spent 50, 60, 100 million, whatever, if we just spent a fortune on him, and you were looking at the technique that he's got, you'd be thinking, we've got a player there, we've got a player who takes responsibility. Love that. Absolutely love that. I also think with Curtis Jones that he's one of those players that he has been blighted by injury. And whenever he gets a run of games going, it's not too long before it's curtailed by injury. And I think that's been a real shame for him, because when he's got 10 games under his belt, I remember there was Klopp's penultimate season, and we were terrible, by the way. I don't know if you remember, we were terrible before he absolutely reshaped the midfield. But Curtis Jones was a real highlight. He had about 10 games before he got injured, and he was man of the match for most of them. He was unbelievable, and now he's 3 years on in his career. He doesn't seem like a kid anymore, the way he carries himself either. He's had a baby himself, hasn't he, and his partner. And I think I can imagine him now being. I think he's probably one of the big voices in the dressing room. We see it in the interviews. He's not afraid to call it out. He's not afraid to call out his own performance and that of others when things have got tough. I think he's probably in the dressing room one of those players who's calling out standards. And I hope he's a Liverpool player for the rest of his career. I really do, because I think you want lads like that knocking around the place.
100%. A few other things I wanted to get through quickly. We're getting to the end of the time on the free show. But did you know that Wirtz's middle name is Richard? No. That took me by surprise today. Florian Richard Wirtz.
Wow.
So yeah,
I
put it on the agenda to just see if you'd read it. I thought you'll randomly, but you admitted you skimmed it. It's fine.
I'm just saying the agenda came late.
I'll just put loads of hours into it. No, but yeah, Florian Richard Wirtz I thought looked stronger again. Throwing in back heels, winning the ball, but also resisting a couple of challenges at times.
He's riding,
yeah.
He's riding challenges now that he wasn't. Listen, he's still getting occasionally knocked off the ball, but nowhere near as frequently as before. Definitely looks stronger.
Yeah, and then the other thing I just wanted to touch on was the odds. There used to be a fella that really hated me ever referencing odds, so I hope he's still listening and that this is doing his head in right now. Slot's job is now regarded to be a bit safer, out to fourth favourites. I mentioned that already. We are fourth favourites for the title now, behind Arsenal, City and Villa. If your glass spilleth over with positivity, you can get 38-1 for Liverpool to win the league this season. We're sixth favourite for the Champions League, 12-1, behind Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Man City, PSG and Barcelona. And we are second favourites for the FA Cup. So the reason I'm saying all this is, I want you to just sort of briefly tell me what you think happens from here on in. So we've got Tottenham on Saturday away. We have got a week later, which is good. These little gaps between the games I kind of feel like we've been crying out for this a little bit. So yeah, Tottenham away at the weekend. Then we've got Wolves at home on the 27th, and they're pretty bad. We've then got Leeds at home on New Year's Day, and then we go to Fulham, and then on the 8th of Jan we go to Arsenal. So in that sort of little mini run there, as things stand, how do you see it? How are you feeling about that little run of fixtures?
Loads of cause for optimism. I think just an observation on something you said there at the start, that the manager's fourth favourite to be sacked, but we're fourth favourite for the title. I think that is symptomatic of where the league is. I just think it's nothing's out of the equation. I mean, the title probably is, but technically it isn't. And you look at it and you go, well, I fully expect us to go to Spurs and win. I think if you can get maximum points from the next 3 games, and on New Year's Day they drop Semenyo, they get him in, that drops online. We've got him, Merry Christmas Liverpool. Then I think then you said Spurs, Wolves, Leeds, and we owe Leeds. I think everyone will be bang up for Leeds
Yep.
at home on New Year's Day. I think there'll be a lot of heavy heads in the crowd, by the way. What time kickoff's that?
Not sure. Not sure.
I hope it's not an early kickoff.
I've only got the actual fixtures, not the kickoff time.
If it's not an early kickoff, then I think it's going to be. I think we'll get 9 points.
I mean, we could do a whole podcast on it, but we're not going to. But New Year's Eve shite.
Yeah, it's rubbish. Overrated. Save yourself for the Reds. But I think we get 9 points. And what did you say the game after that?
After Leeds, Fulham away.
Fulham away. We're flying now. We've got 5 wins behind us at this point.
Here we go.
5 wins behind us at this point.
Then we're back.
We go to Fulham away, and we know that the one after that is Arsenal.
Then we're back.
The one after Fulham is Arsenal? Yeah. So we go into Fulham away thinking, and they've dropped a few points at this stage as well, by the way, Arsenal. They've dropped a few over, just the odd 1 or 2, couple of draws, just to make it tasty. And then it makes it very, very interesting going to the Emirates.
I'm into
Very
this.
exciting.
See, there's a bit of positivity for you as well. That's a nice way to it. Kick-off is 5:30. Someone has added in the comments there. So there you go.
Plenty of time for recovery.
No excuses whatsoever there. Okay, well, we'll carry on in the Patreon. Over in the Patreon, we're going to talk about why online discourse is fucking mad as fuck. I'll tell you about some particularly wild stuff that I've had personally in the last sort of week or so. And Stu is going to tell me about, or tell you all about simulation theory.
This is what the public really wants.
Because, I mean, the last time he was on, we ended up talking about aliens and you all loved a bit of that. Well, here we are again with something mad. So that's the plan for the Patreon. We may go off in other directions, who knows. But come and join us over there if you can. And if not, we'll be back next week. Don't worry. Someone did send me a message the other day saying, will you be doing ones? Will you be doing shows on the 15th and 22nd of December? Of course we will. Of course we will. We've been going nearly 3 years, man. And one last shout as well. Press the subscribe button on YouTube. It doesn't cost you any money. Makes the numbers go up. Makes me feel good. Makes me feel like we're doing something that's heading in some kind of direction. Helps in terms of people watching it and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, feeds my fucking ego. Mo's had his fucking fed. Someone's just thrown $10 in. Sending some love from Hawaii. I'm the only Scouser here, but I've managed to get a few of my American Reds to listen to your excellent channel. Keep up the fantastic job you're doing. Thanks, mate. That's nice, isn't it? What a nice way to finish. That has been the late challenge. Thanks to Stu for coming off the substitute bench and filling in for Mo. Mo, Old Trafford. Fucking hell, lad. See you next week.